We're recording.
Okay, welcome to the Amherst Design Review Board meeting of March 17th, 2025. Happy St. Patrick's Day to those of you who acknowledge that. My name is Erica Zekas, and as the chair of the Amherst Design Review Board, I'm calling this meeting to order at 5:07 p.m. The meeting is being recorded and will be made available via the Town of Amherst YouTube channel. Minutes are being taken. Pursuant to Chapter 20, the Acts of 2021, and extended again by Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted via remote means. Members of the public who wish to access the meeting may do so via Zoom or by telephone. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. A hyperlink to the hearing is posted on the town's online calendar. Board members, I'll take roll call. When I call your name, let me know that you're here. Lindsay Schnarr.
Here.
Karen Winter.
Here.
Pat Oth.
Present.
Karen Blum is not here this evening, and Erica Zekas present. Board members, if technical issues arise, we may need to pause temporarily to fix the problem and then continue the meeting. If the discussion needs to pause, it will be noted in the minutes. Please use the raised hand function to ask a question or make a comment. I'll see your request and call on you to speak. After speaking, please remember to remute yourself. The general public comment item is reserved for public comment regarding items that are and are not on tonight's agenda. Please be aware the board will not respond to comments during the general public comment period. Public comment could also be heard at other times during the meeting if determined appropriate. Please indicate that you wish to make a comment by clicking the raise hand button when public comment is solicited. If you've joined the Zoom meeting using a telephone, please indicate that you wish to make a comment by pressing *9 on your phone. When called on, please identify yourself by stating your full name and address and put yourself back into mute when finished speaking. Residents can express their views for up to 3 minutes or at the discretion of the chair. If a speaker does not comply with the guidelines or exceeds their allotted time, their participation will be discontinued from the meeting. Tonight's agenda includes the following. We'll start with general public comment period, and we have 2 applications tonight, DRB FY 2025 number 12 and 25-148 North Pleasant Street Exchange Thrift Shop, and item 13 or 25-2, Amherst Youth Soccer Association at Potwine. And so then we'll do approval of meeting minutes and any other business. So let's get started with general public comment. Are there any members of the public who wish to share a thought tonight?
We don't have anyone in the audience.
All right, then. So then, any representatives from Exchange?
Jack Mandy will be joining us shortly.
Good evening, welcome.
How are you?
Fine, thanks. We're
Thank
happy to
you.
hear from you. We would love it if you could walk us through your proposal.
Yep.
Just describe a little bit what you're planning to do, and then we'll have some questions and answers and take a motion.
Yeah. So I've already talked to the building manager and the property manager about the signage. I was kind of back and forth on where to put it and what it's gonna look like. So they said they want it right in between the works and 10-1, and that they would prefer to look like the 10-1 sign. And the fast signs made a couple, and this is what the property manager chose. But it's pretty simple. Our name exchange, and then right below is thrift, consignment, and community.
Mhm.
If you scroll up a little bit, right there, it says that. and it should fit just perfectly in between the two signs already there.
Got it. And what are the materials again?
Um, I'm not, it should say somewhere on here maybe.
Doesn't say on here.
I can try and look in an email,
Hmm.
but Rachel, who made the sign, um, that's probably a her question. I'm sorry, I'm not able to answer that.
Wonder if it's in the application. Okay, anything else to add to that, Mr. Mandy?
No.
Okay. DRB members, any observations, questions? Lindsay, go ahead.
Hi. Um, I do have a few questions. It's tricky not knowing what the material is because that does seem like it would make a difference. Do you know if the white and the black are in the same plane as one another or the same material as one another?
I do know that it's the same material as one another. Because it's not sticking out like the one like 10-1.
Okay, that's helpful.
But I also do know that it's like weatherproof. That's the one that I also chose. So I'm not really sure what the coating over it is, but that's all I really know. But I can email her the exact what the materials are right now.
Mhm.
Um, okay. And then my other two comments are just so it looks like it goes literally from corner to corner.
Yep.
Is that true, or is there any space on either edge?
There's probably like a couple inches in between. I know that they just like kind of like um I don't know how to like what they did on their computer to like plop it in there, but they said there's a couple inches off each side, but it's the same height and almost the same width as 10-1.
Mhm.
There's a little longer.
That's it for me now.
Okay.
Thanks.
And I see Karen's hand as well.
It looks like it's black and yellow on my screen, and the 10-1 is black and white. And I'm wondering if the white could, if you have a choice, and if you agree, whether it could be a little bit more in tone in keeping with the sign next to it, just to make it more harmonious. It's not a big thing, but it might make it blend in more attractively.
Yep. So 10-1 uses a whitish grayish font, and I talked to them. Um, I can see on this picture it definitely looks slightly yellow. It definitely is not. It's definitely a more whitish with like a little gray in it that matches 10-1's. But I can definitely see what you're saying, but it's definitely white with a little grayish in it.
Okay.
I think my comments are, I appreciate that you're kind of matching first of all, the height dimension of the 10-1 sign. I think that that's a really important move for this location. And I also appreciate that you're matching the colors of 10-1. And I'm going to take you at your word on that. I I do think, however, that it feels very crowded. And so for me, I think my recommendation or the thing that I'd be interested in is maintaining the height, but shrinking the width. And that probably means scaling down the text a little bit because I feel like it's a long string. And while you're coordinating with the neighboring sign, you don't want it to blend into the neighboring sign. And so I think that just a
I
couple
can
inches gap actually wants to increase to at least 6 inches and
okay.
still
I
stay
can
centered over the window.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. And I agree with that as well. because I don't want it to look like one big sentence almost with exchange 10-1.
Yeah, well said. I feel like that's what
Yeah.
could happen. It's certainly what's happening for me in this rendering.
Yep.
Lindsay, go ahead.
I just want to pipe in on that same kind of train of thought. I think that was really well put words to some of my thoughts around kind of the relationship being a little too close. And the other thing that I'm feeling is that the similarity is it's almost like too similar without being the same, in my opinion. And I think that where it's not the same is the font style, the font type. And I guess I would ask the question of like, what needs to be the same? I think the height definitely wants to be the same, as Erica noted. I don't mind having the same kind of like bubble, but I feel like the black and white, and I think this is part of what Karen picked up on with the like tone issue, because it's so similar, it feels like it wants to be the same.
Hmm.
And so I'm wondering if there's a way to make like exchange perhaps a different color, like something that's just totally different from the 10-1, just to really differentiate it so it doesn't look like one long sentence, so it has a purpose for being a different font, so that there's not this kind of like contrast in the tone of the white. I feel like that would really help. You can keep the same kind of like language that you have, but just even perhaps a color change would help differentiate it. And I agree with pulling it in from the sides, but
Okay.
Do you have any other colors in your promotions palette?
No. But I know Rachel, who like makes the signs, can like get that done with many options very fast. Um, I'm still trying to bounce through the property manager because he was also like he wanted to look black and white. But I totally agree what you guys are saying. Um, but I'm okay with trying to change the letter coloring
Mhm.
and then seeing what looks best.
Does anybody here on the committee have suggestions about the color? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm seeing Pat's hand, and also just want to plant the seed about kind of suggestions for colors. You still want some contrast on the black background, but Pat, please.
Yes, no, I agree with you, Erica and Lindsay's comments. I guess my question for Mr. Mandy is sounds like the property manager is requesting the black and white. And would the introduction of a color be acceptable? Because I think that's another card that's in this hand of decision making. But possibly if we can suggest some colors, then Mr. Mandy can go back to the property manager, maybe have a mock-up of several different colors and see what the property manager says. But I think shortening the sign to keep it separate from 10-1 and not that big long sentence. It looks like it could be the same business. And that's not going to serve anybody.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I like the idea of giving the property manager a bunch of different examples because they were pretty not strict, but definitely wanted the sign to look just like 10-1. He didn't, I mean, his word, it was a small sentence of him saying that he wants it to look exactly like 10-1. But
Mm,
I think I can give him some options and then talk about that after.
okay.
Because I agree.
Yeah,
I don't want it to look just like 10-1s. But I mean I'll definitely decrease the width as well.
Okay.
I'm just got one more comment. I'm looking more closely at the photo that's up. And the works seems to have some colorful icons over the word the works. And so there is color there on the building. It
Yeah.
would seem if what think I'm seeing is true.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
Karen, go for it.
Well, and if he's completely sold on black and white, there's probably the possibility of just exchanging, having a white background and black lettering on it. I wonder. And I definitely agree pulling it in a little from the side is going to be an improvement, but yeah, so what about it's a great idea to make a couple of mock-ups because
Yeah.
I think then when you come to him, he's going to see, oh, this looks nice and this looks nice, and that's just good to give somebody choice.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. May I ask you, are you going to have any other signage? Is there any permanent signage on the door, for example, or to direct people downstairs or?
No, it's just that sign. We were thinking, maybe putting like the like a not a neon, but some sign in the window that kind of like that you can take down and put away that says exchange. Maybe something on our door. There's nothing. We're
Sometimes
still
people like to
thinking about
post
what
their
we want to
hours
do.
or things like that with like a
Yeah,
vinyl.
yeah. We don't have anything for that right now, but we were maybe planning on doing that in the future.
Okay. Right. That's something that usually comes before this committee as well. So I'm just asking the
Yeah.
question since you're here. And if we are going to ask you to come back next month with some options, then we would want to address those things at the same time. So
Yeah.
thought I'd put it out there. Um, should I take a stab at summarizing our comments, or does anybody have anything else to add to the dialogue at this point? No. Okay. So our recommendations are to return in a month to the DRB with a redesign of the sign that continues to match the height of 10-1, but shortens the sign with a goal of maintaining a gap of 6 inches or more between the two signs. The sign should remain centered over that window, I think. And then to try some different color combinations, obviously with the approval of your building manager, but if they approve, then bring some options or a different option back to the board. Did I miss anything? Okay.
Chair Zikos, do we want to just talk about the next meeting date so that they know? I know the 21st is a holiday, so I was proposing the 28th of April.
Board members, can we check calendars now? Is that within the scope of possibility? I'm looking at
Um,
mine.
I don't want to be stingy, but is there any way we could do the week before? If not, that's totally fine.
It's the week
I
before.
cannot do that night. I'm gonna be at a
Okay.
work event.
Was that the 14th or the 28th?
Sorry, I can't do the 28th because I have a meeting
Sure.
presentation. But the 21st I think is probably fine.
I think the 21st is Patriots
Yeah, so
Day.
it's a day off
Sorry,
from,
the 14th is what we're talking about.
yeah,
I'm fine with that.
okay.
So
Pat
this
or
is Pat. The 14th is fine with me.
Mm-hmm. It's fine with me as well. What about you, Karen?
I hate I hate to say this, but I'm going to be in Paris.
That sounds great. Well, if Karen Blum can join us, then we'll have a quorum and you could sit one out. Why don't we tentatively say the 14th of April? And we will check that we have a quorum and make that date public as soon as we
Okay.
can. Thank you for raising that question, Jacinta.
No problem.
Okay. So, do we need to vote on this, on the recommendations as recently summarized?
I would say you're asking him to come back,
We're
right?
asking you to come back, so I
Yeah,
don't think
so
we
we're
need to
kind of
vote.
continuing to the next date certain. Yeah.
So if that all sounds good to you, Jack, we could revisit this next month.
That sounds good.
Fantastic.
All right. Thank you, Jack.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much. Have a nice evening.
You too. Bye.
Okay.
Great. Okay, and now we move on to the shed
Mhm.
at Port Wine.
So Megan Rhodes will be joining shortly, and Maura Keene will also be joining.
Hey, Megan.
Hi there, how are you?
Good. How's the rooster?
Not mine. You've got the
Oh.
rooster?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't hear it, no.
Okay, it's just Megan. Sorry.
Okay. Megan, do you want to walk us through the shed location and design, and can you screen share, or do you want? Oh, I guess Jacinta's on it. Okay, cool.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, just a quick overview, and thank you for having me tonight. So
course.
I am the president of the Amherst Youth Soccer Association. This season, we're up to 470 kids in the town providing soccer to kids. And we operate out of the Plumbrook Fields on Potwine Lane that they're town owned by the town recreation department. And we have, because we're such a large operation these days, we've been operating all of our equipment out of a storage facility. And it's been really difficult. We're all volunteer run organization, and having to schlep paint liners and flags and nets from every weekend, basically all year long at this point. I mean, fall and spring seasons. It's a lot to ask of our volunteers, and we're having trouble recruiting volunteers. And part of it is just because that's one more thing that they have to do. So I'm hoping to put a shed on the site. So to minimize, that's one last thing for our volunteers to do and kind of centralize our operations. I'm proposing to put the shed where that red rectangle is located on the fields. I've worked with the town highway, the town Department of Public Works, and the Recreation Commission on this. And they are in favor. I've also contacted the wetlands Concom agent about this location. They are all in agreement that that is a good location. We're looking at a 10 by 16 wooden shed. It's going to be prefabricated. We're hoping to purchase it through Palmer Shed Sales. We haven't purchased it yet because I wanted to hear from you guys. What we're suggesting is a design that's similar to this. This is what I've kind of, if you go back real quickly, I'm sorry, Jacinta, yeah. That's the design that I've mocked up on the Palmer Shed Sales site that I have a tentative estimate for. I'm suggesting the pewter color with a pewter metal roof. It's going to have 2 doors. Looking like that. And then now you can, if you want to scroll down, I tried to find some real world images. The gray one that's there is the color that I've chosen. Again, that's open for negotiation. It's not a great picture, I apologize. The one below is a better picture, but a different color, and that has windows. I couldn't find the exact real world looking of what we're looking to order. We're not proposing to have windows just because for security's sake, just to minimize entrance, potential ways for people to get into the shed. But if the board feels windows are important, that we're open to that as well.
Okay.
It's going to be, had some preliminary discussions with the building inspector. It'll be placed on a gravel pad, and there'll be a gravel path connecting the shed to the parking lot for accessibility purposes. But it's gonna be right off of the fence there, tucked a little bit to the side, so it shouldn't be visually too visible from the street. Kind of just tucked enough into that little corner there that it shouldn't be too obvious. I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Yeah, I noticed in your package, a couple of the diagrams kind of showed the path that led from the parking to the shed. And I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about that. And like why that route is chosen, and do we have to pass over a drainage swale or dip?
Yeah, so the path I chose because that was the closest path to the closest gate from the parking lot. You do have to cross the swale that the town Department of Public Works just put in. I do need to talk with Amy at the Department of Public Works to figure that portion out. We're proposing to make the path at least to that swale, and then find out how they intend. I don't want to mess with the drainage. So
Right.
I want to work with them to make sure we do it properly, and then determine how to best get over that swale, and then connect it to the parking lot, to the smooth, stable surface of the parking lot.
Yeah, I was trying to do some research. Lindsay, I wonder if you know if a shed like this, you mentioned the word accessibility, right? So that makes me think that it needs to be ADA accessible, and it would become the town's issue if they've put in a swale to make sure that, say a guest or player in a wheelchair could get to the fields and also to the shed. But that seems like an important issue.
Yeah, that's why I want to work with the town on that, because I feel that's not entirely in my purview to fix the
Right.
accessibility to the entire site.
Right.
But just to the shed is what I'm proposing.
Okay.
You should definitely double check, but my understanding is that it's only required for public spaces. So if it's only people who are working through your organization, it's possible that it's not required.
So the building inspector is the one who has told us that it needs to be accessible
Okay.
because it's on public
Because it's
property.
on public property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
sense.
And so we have made sure that the doors are wide enough, or we'll make
Mhm.
sure that it's level and accessible.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions for Ms. Rhodes?
I'll just continue a couple. Is there lighting, and was there a need for lighting?
There's no lighting on the field and there's no need for lighting.
Karen?
So this is a kind of a prefab shed that sort of meets the requirements of what you're looking for, and I assume there were, I don't know how many others there are to choose from. I mean, it's very utilitarian looking. There's kind of it's not beautiful, but maybe it doesn't have to be. I think the simpler, the better. So if this meets your needs, I wouldn't go against it, but I have a little shed on a house which is really simple, and did you look at others? Is this one that you find attractive and like and best?
So we're a nonprofit organization, so working with a very tight budget is partly it. I would love to have a more elaborate design. I'm trying to balance both aesthetics and our organization's budget. So I did add that second door to provide a little bit of relief so there'd be less blank sides to the facades. I was hoping that would help a little bit and balance that so we wouldn't have such blank sides. I'm open to having windows to provide a little features to the shed. I do also want to balance the security since this will be kind of alone. There will be no lighting. It's going to be a locked facility. I don't want, to tempt people from trying to break in. Not that there's anything valuable in there, but,
Yeah.
golden get nets, but that is something I also want to balance.
Yeah, I respect that. I have to say, just to build on Karen's comment, when I saw it, I had very similar notes for myself, and I wondered if we can't make it more beautiful, then
Okay.
perhaps we could make it disappear. And by virtue of like not having a contrasting color trim, right? If the
Sure.
body and the trim were the same color, either the pewter or the white, for example, that it might just call less attention to itself.
Sure. That's fine. And I picked the pewter just to think, I was hoping to be like a nondescript blend in kind of color,
Yeah.
but I'm open to anything else.
Yeah, I went on the Palmer Shed website and saw that they had a couple of examples of like a gray on gray lofted barn, 10 by 16.
Yeah.
And it just a little bit less attention grabbing.
Okay.
I think I agree with you about the windows. It just seems like you don't want to tempt fate with any curiosity about what's going on in there.
Can I ask a question?
Hmm.
Is the gambrel roof form to provide more space in the loft?
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for. So rather than a larger footprint, we just go up a little bit higher.
Mm-hmm. And I have another question. Is there another structure on the opposite end of the field?
There are no structures on the site at all.
Just maybe porta potties is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, there's a porta potty usually during the season on the parking lot tucked into the trees on the opposite side.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Okay. Had any comments or thoughts from you?
I am agreeing with everything that's being said. I saw it as just a very utilitarian structure.
Yeah.
And so, possibly having it be gray on gray would make it blend in even more. But I don't have any strong feelings about it one way or the other, given the purpose and given that it will be the only structure there. If there was
Mhm.
more than one structure, then we'd be interested in coordinating them. But this seemingly will be the only structure. So those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. And Karen, I saw your hand up again. Did you want to add?
No, I think that's brilliant. I think that if the contrast isn't there, it already helps because it makes it more just very simple utilitarian and not trying to be something like a fake little barn with trim, which is what this looks like to me. And then it would be just a shed. And I agree, don't put windows in it. It's just a security, it's just helping. And so yes, good idea. Try to not have the trim and have it be just as simple as possible. So it's just a utilitarian thing that's going to serve its purpose.
Great, thank you. Are we ready for a motion?
I have one last thought.
Okay.
I think everything that's been said makes sense to me and I agree with it. I guess my only other question around the roof form, because I see it sort of similarly to the trim in that it's like, it is functional, but it also has sort of an ornamental quality or like a trying to be something that's more stylized.
Mhm.
And so I'm wondering if the shed manufacturers offer a shed roof style, like it's kind of like a dormer, but it's just a simple sloped roof that pops up that gives a little more vertical height. And if it does offer that, I don't know if it would be more expensive or not. I do think they're more attractive. personally, but that's also a judgment call. And like, it's more kind of like simple form.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Can you more of a peaked roof?
Yeah, it's
Or-
like a gable roof, so it's a peaked roof, but it has a pop-up on one side, so it's like a lifted, sloped edge. It's called a shed dormer.
Shed dormer?
And I don't know if this manufacturer or if this type of manufacturer offers that, but I feel like I've seen them before. It just might be worth taking a look at as an alternative if it is offered, or kind of simplifying the stylistic design of it. Otherwise, if it doesn't have it, I understand the functional purpose and I'm fine with it. And just a thought.
I think that's a nice idea. And if you could explore that as an option, Megan, and if it's available and if it serves your storage needs and it's the right price to, choose that different kind of simpler roof line. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just, yeah, sure. I'm happy to explore. I'm looking at the website right now and it looks like it's either just the typical peaked roof or what you're seeing now. But I can potentially look at other manufacturers if it's a strong sentiment.
I think it would just be a suggestion. It's not a direction.
Karen? Karen, did you want to weigh in?
Maybe if you had a very simple roof line that was up on one side, so you would have the height, and down, it might even be more economical. I feel that this is just a utilitarian thing that is trying hard to make itself look sort of fashionable, and that's not what you need. You need just a very simple shed. So I agree, if you can find one which is simpler, it'll probably be much more attractive in a way and disappear more. If it's the cost that if it's not more expensive
Yeah.
and serves your purpose, you definitely need this to be practical to fit your needs. And I don't think we should give you a hard time about that. But just our sentiments are that the simpler, probably the more attractive it's going to be on the site.
So would it be possible to share my screen? I have
Yeah.
one I just quickly found on the website, if this seems simpler with just the one side. Let's see. So this is also available. It's 10 by 16, so the same size, but it's just it's just the one simple roof line. And I've tried to match the colors with the trim. I'm not sure why the corner trims are different, but the door trims are the same as the wall trims. So if that's an idea, if that's preferable by the board.
Does
I'm
it
in
give you,
favor, personally.
Sorry, Lindsay, I didn't hear you.
I was just going to say, from a style standpoint, I think I'm in favor of that option, but I think the next question is more important, which is the functionality of it.
Yeah. And Pat, your hand has been up. I'm sorry that I didn't acknowledge you earlier.
not a problem, and I thank you, Megan, for finding this and sharing it with us. I personally would agree to either plan, either design. My question is, which offers the most storage space for you? And is it cost efficient?
Yeah, I haven't gone through, so it looks like the price is about the same, around $6,000. I'd have to think about in terms of which is more efficient. My inkling is that the gambrel roof might be more efficient because I can hang things a little bit easier rather than just having it right by the door. But I may need to mull over that.
Okay.
One of my thoughts is, Potwine is a mixed street with some rural land, still some farming land and barns. And so your first design actually, in my opinion, fits more with the streetscape of Potwine than this one would. Just again, as Lindsay said, it's an opinion.
Mhm. Well, it sounds as though the members of the board are open to either a gambrel or the shed roof line, and acknowledge, Megan, that it needs to serve your budget and your functional needs for storage. Like that is very important. And so I think in terms of kind of summarizing this discussion, that we would encourage you to explore the shed roof line. And if it serves you, then to consider that option, to go with that option, consider or go with. Where do we want to be on this? I think it's fine to ask you to make that choice. And then to have the pewter color on the body and the trim. And then want to just kind of reiterate the advisement to coordinate with the town regarding accessibility to the site. Or encourage the town to make sure that your building is accessible if you're going to choose that location. That seems important. So do you want to make a motion to approve with those recommendations?
I move to approve with those recommendations.
There,
I second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please let us know by saying aye.
Aye.
Pat says aye.
Pat says aye. So does everyone else. All right, thanks, Megan, for
Thank you
walking
all.
us through that.
No problem. Appreciate it.
Great. And I will say, as somebody who was part of the schlepping of the gear for many years, this is a great move. So.
It'll also reduce traffic to our neighborhood, Erica, because there's a lot of cars coming to my house.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay. Nobody, public comment, nobody's showing up. Okay,
No.
good. So then we can move on to meeting minutes, and it has been a minute since we've met.
Hold
This would
them up
be-
one second.
Yeah, you provided a revised minutes from November. Do we need to reapprove those, or was that just for information only?
I don't think we approved the November minutes.
Okay, right, we did hold off. Okay, let's take a look at those, and then there's the draft minutes from our last meeting in December.
Mhm.
Is there anybody who would like a slow scroll through this? I know that.
I don't know if you want me to summarize as I scroll or just everybody's good with just the scroll.
Yeah, I've read them. They look good to me. So if anybody else wants that, just speak up.
Okay, that's that for November.
Anybody need to see a part of that in more detail or more time? I move to approve the minutes of November
18.
18th, 2024.
I
Second.
second.
Thank you. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
That's everybody. Anyone opposed? Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
And these are the December minutes. That's it.
Anybody need to see anything more closely? Okay. A motion?
I make a motion to accept the minutes as presented of the December
16th.
16th, 2024 meeting.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
I
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed, abstentions? Okay. That's everyone. Other business. The only thing on my mind is whether Jacinta, you have an update on the status or the where our updated standards might be living at the moment.
I think they're still living with Dodson and Flinker, so I don't think they've made it before the planning board or anything like that yet.
Mhm.
So that's where they've been for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Dodson and Flinker's schedule at this point is,
They're still working on it, on the design standards. I think they're working mostly with other staff to
Yeah.
iron those out. So once I hear anything that's new, I will definitely let you know, and I can always ask as well.
yeah, I would appreciate an ask. I'm curious about whether those design standards are going to come back to this committee before and whether we'd be a part of that discussion before things are made it, make a proposal to the
Planning board.
planning board. It'd be nice to be a part of that conversation.
Okay.
So,
I will let them know.
any-
Would you like them to present, maybe, like to come to the DRB meeting and present?
I think that would be nice, but I also don't want to presume that that's the process. I know that the process has been laid out and there's a contract in place,
Mm.
so I'm mindful of that.
Mhm.
But if that's within the scope,
so
yeah, I think.
I was at the last meeting
Mm,
and I asked the stakeholders whether they thought that it was time yet for them to formulate something. And the consensus was that no, there had to be more consensus first. So there's going to be at least one meeting where they're going to try to attain that consensus. And I think then, and I think they're very busy. I'm not sure if its purpose is a good idea to have them come to present to our group. And I am a part of that, so I can kind of keep you informed somewhat.
be our liaison. Thank you. Okay.
Okay. I did have a question. So going back to the exchange, we had a similar situation with the Buttercup Bakery where we continued, like we asked them to come back, but we still voted anyway. So I was sort of thinking maybe we just take the vote just to keep it simple, like consistent, or just leave it because we've already decided they're just going to come back anyway and we'll vote then.
In this case, our vote would be to not approve with the
Yeah.
following recommendations.
But in Buttercup, we didn't really do that. What we did was something similar where we gave recommendations, but we still asked them to come back. So that's why I was sort of like, Well, if we're asking them to come back, we don't want to vote and then,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I wasn't sure, protocol wise, what you've done in the past.
Done it both ways.
Okay,
I mean, if we were doing it really formally, I think the appropriate thing would be we would have
voted.
voted not to approve and provided our recommendations and then said, come back for approval,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
Um,
I'm still learning, so I just want to make
yeah,
sure
no, I think
I'm
it's a great question, and we meet so infrequently that I often forget the precedent, if you will.
okay. So maybe in the future we would vote not to approve, and then we would just say, you know, please take our recommendations under advisement, and we would like you to come back to the next meeting. Okay.
That
Right.
seems like a sound decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for clearing that up for me.
Yeah, and thank you for raising that with us. Are there any other business? No? Okay. Well then, with that in mind, here at 5:58 or 3:58 or 2:58, depending on what part of the country you're in, we can adjourn. Thanks all.
Thank you.
And
Okay.
Thank
April
you.
14th, right?
I believe April
Yes.
14th is
April
what
14th.
everyone
Okay.
said.
Great.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Appreciation. Ciao.